What's up, YouTube? Wanted to circle back to you guys and talk about some of the things that just were on my mind today. Just about, and I think something that I don't know if you guys follow Anton Daniel, but something he was talking about that kind of resonated with me about, us as black men always ready to crash out, right? Get your respect. It's up forever. Before we get started and talk about it, if you guys could do me a favor, hit that like button, comment if you have seen this in the past, or if you're still dealing with it. But yeah, let's dive into it, right? So I am going to be 42 years old this year. So I'm what some people might call Unc, OG, things like that, and at a particular time in my life, I was a crash out. I mean, I didn't. Luckily, I had more sense. God willing, I avoided a lot of scenarios. But my first instinct, especially when I was younger, was to address the situation. Stir the beef. Confront situations that just when I look back at them, even a couple years after they happened, I was just like, what the heck was I doing? And I had animosity that was like misplaced, if that makes sense, right? And I think a lot of the animosity, a lot of the crash out energy comes from, really not, you really having issues with yourself, right? Because if you got everything going on with yourself, like let's say you just winning that life, right? You got the women that you want, you got the money that you want, you living the life that you want to live. A lot of that crash out energy subsides, even if you lean to it. You know what I mean? Let's say you're a guy that you grew up in an environment that lends itself towards crashing out. Meddling in the beef. If you have a lot going for yourself, majority of times you choose to just avoid the drama, right? And you let things go because it's really not that important in the grand scheme of what all you got going on in your life. And that's what I think is most important is guys got to have something going for themselves and mature and realize, like, look, this particular temporary scenario can permanently affect me, right? For me, let's say I'm out and about somewhere, and I'm married, and you say, oh, well, this guy's talking crazy, not putting his hands on nobody, but talking crazy. What do I win by escalating the situation, right? I don't think you win anything. Me personally, I don't think you win anything, because at the end of the day, me jumping down someone else's throat for something that they did, when I could easily just walk away from the situation and go home, it's crazy, right? And I think it's important, because let's think about this thing. So let's say you go through it. You defended your wife's talking to some guy's talking crazy. You're like, he disrespected me in front of my wife. Blah 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 blah. You check the behavior, or you just avoid the scenario. Let's say you don't. Let's say you decide you want to engage with this idiot. This idiot obviously don't have nothing going for themselves. This is why they're being disrespectful. Their self-worth is wrapped up in physicality, and and they're challenging you because they want to stroke their ego, right? They need an ego boost, and they feel like you're the person that can do that for them, right? So now you crash out. Let's say you win the confrontation, right? What happens when you get locked up now? Because you're fighting in an establishment, right? So now you got to spend time and money and resources getting yourself out of a situation where just walking away would have solved. Or let's say you win and you hurt this person so badly, then now you in jail, right? Now your wife is left out there unprotected. So the next guy that says something to her, she don't have you to protect her. And, eventually, depending on how long you locked up, or, what type of person you have, that's somebody else is, dealing with it. And that's the thing. A lot of guys, there's guys, this is the same when I was growing up in, that would say, there's guys in jail right now that are in a jail over a woman, right? He's locked up because of what he did to the other guy. Other guys in jail, and now this new guy has your woman without any impediments, right? So I think that we have to pause for a second and realize, being a tough guy gets you nowhere. And if you have a woman that makes you, puts you in that position to be a tough guy and have to defend her honor, you need to probably start looking at different women, right? My number one priority and my wife's number one priority should be me getting home, me and her getting home safely. And if that means me walking away from a situation, she needs to understand that. Right? Long as you don't put your hands on my wife, as long as you put your hands on me, you're fine. Other than that, you put your hands on me, I'm gonna defend myself. And let the chips fall where they may. But if I can avoid the situation, I'm gonna go ahead and avoid the situation. What is the point? Even though how I was raised and what's in me, tells me to crash out, because I get angry sometimes. I get super angry, and then when I have a chance to review what I was actually angry about, it was so small and so petty, and it was so unnecessary. And I'm glad that I didn't take it to the extreme, because I wouldn't have gained anything. But I think when you don't have anything, you don't have anything to lose, you feel that disrespect is so paramount. I remember it being something silly. It used to be always talking about, some guy stepped on my shoes at the bar. Now we gonna finna crash out and go to jail over some shoes. So let's think about these shoes, right? Let's say you spent $180 for shoes. Let's say they were Jordans, because sometimes the shoes be cheaper than that. But let's say they $180 to $200. You threw your life away for $200. You were willing to subject yourself to bodily harm, or subject someone else to bodily harm, for $200. That is the most asinine and craziest thing ever. And I've been there, done that. Like, but dude stepped on my shoe. You're in a club where there's crowded people, right? He has no idea where you are standing in relation to him. So by him moving around in a crowded area, stepping on your shoes is a problem. Instead of saying, "Oh, my bad," or wearing shoes that may be less expensive. I had a cousin of mine years ago. He would wear Timbs. He'd wear a fresh pair of Timbs inside the club. He'd walk around, let everybody see his Timbs. Let everybody see how fresh he was. He'd go back outside and change into some regular Timbs. Why? Because if he knew people were gonna step on his shoes, then it wasn't worth fighting over. Right? You see that I got these fresh Timbs on, I'm gonna go put on my other Timbs after this. You know what I'm saying? Now that you step on these Timbs, it's not that big a problem. And also it had the benefit of, if I do get into a fight, I have on something sturdy. But and I think about all the times and all the fights that started, especially when I was a teenager, that turned into extreme violence. Was, oh, he don't like me. You don't even know this person. Or he stepped on my shoes, or he looking at me. And, that was the craziest one, cats over there mean mugging. What does it cost you to, because if they're mean mugging you, then they probably want to be you, right? There's something about you that makes them jealous. And your shine makes them feel self-conscious. So you jumping into a scenario to make the situation even worse than what it is, it's crazy. But anyway, guys, I just wanted to touch on that. We'll continue to follow this series as time goes on. Thanks so much. If you could do me a favor, hit the like and subscribe button, and have a great rest of the day.